This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Lays it in! Count that baby! And the foul!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Count That Baby in the Foul podcast. As always, I am one half of your host, Mr. Jerry Mallory, and I'm not alone. It's a dynamic duo. Accompanying me, as always, is the one and only Mr. Kevin Evans. What's happening, Kev?
What's going on, G-Mal?
We've been gone for a little bit, and a lot has happened. The last time we did a show, Tobias Harris was a new Piston. Domantas Motiejunas was a new Piston. Marcus Thornton was a new Piston. Well, we know how that went down. Motiejunas is still with the Rockets. I think Thornton, where is he, with Washington or something crazy?
Yeah, I forgot where he went. He went with somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that Motiejunas is not a Piston.
They are not here. Kevin was worried about his back and this whole thing. We may end up getting off rails and talking about that if we get enough time. It's crazy though. A lot has gone on with the team since we've been gone, and now it's about to get fun, man, because this is the first time in a long time that we're talking about games. You know, game 70, game 71, et cetera, and the Pistons are firmly entrenched in a playoff race. Kev, it's been a while. What was it like the last time we were here? I don't even remember. I think it was like an 8th seed battle. We had Allen Iverson, and it was crazy. This team, a little bit younger, a little bit more promising. What are your thoughts on the team as we're heading into the playoff race, Kev?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up that comparison about the last time we were in the playoffs with the Allen Iverson team, because this is like basically the exact opposite. Now, if you remember back, I think that was 2009, 2008,
Yeah,
2009.
something like that, yep.
Yeah, so if you remember with that playoff race, it was almost the exact opposite, where we were expected to win probably like close to 50 games and be, you know, one of the top seeds in the East. And then we just barely snuck in under 500 records. So it was really like our season went out with a whimper. It really did. And this time, it's the exact opposite. There's a lot of excitement. We feel like the team is playing a lot better as opposed to, you know, being on the decline. They're on the upswing. So it's really exciting, and I can't wait to see what happens in these last few games. But feeling pretty okay about our chances, but we'll know a lot more after this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend is going to be huge. And Kev, I don't know, who was our coach? Was it Kuster? Who was the head coach of that team?
That's a good question. Oh man,
Was it Lawrence Frank, Kuster? It was somebody that we didn't have a lot of faith in.
No. Was it Mike Curry?
Maybe it was Michael Curry, man.
I think it might have been Mike Curry.
And so, like you're saying, it's complete opposite. You had an incompetent GM making bad moves. We know Dumars had a great run. I'm not saying as a whole he was incompetent. I mean, he was one of the best GMs for a while. But at that point, definitely on the downswing. You know, things were shaky. I don't know if Bill Davison had died yet. The ownership situation was shaky. Whoever was the president, everything was shaky, and it was an older, declining team. This time around, it's an owner that seems to be involved. You know, he's pumping money into the team. You've got a president and Stan Van Gundy and coach who we all have confidence in. He's got the right guys, you know, in place. And so, yeah, I'm with you. A complete 180. But yet and still, whereas that team made it, the 180 on this one is the Pistons might not make it. It's not a guarantee. Just looking at this schedule, it's very tough. You've got 4 teams fighting for 2 spots. For the 7th and 8th seed, you pretty much got Indiana, you've got Detroit, Washington, and you've got the Bulls. Now, at this point, Detroit they're like the 8th seed. They've got the same amount of wins, 38, as Indiana with 1 more loss. They're 38 and 34. Not Atlanta, Indiana, excuse me. Indiana's 38 and 33, Chicago 36, 35, and then Washington 35 and 36. So what we're going to do for the first half of this show is break down the remaining games for all of these teams, because it's a good chance whoever has the easiest slate may make it in. Whoever has the toughest road, well, they may be on the outside looking in. And you know what, Kevin? I hate to say it. I think we'll make it in, but we're going to have to be much better than all these teams, because whereas they have easier roads, our schedule's a little bit tough. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a moment here. before we get into all the records and looking at each game, Kevin, just give me your gut reaction. Give me your gut feeling. Do the Pistons make it into the playoffs this year?
That's a tough question. It's really hard for me to say without seeing how they play this weekend, but my gut feeling is we do just barely squeak into that 8th spot. So I would say yes at this moment.
I feel the same way as you. I think we sneak in with the 8th seed. Indiana's probably the other team that makes it in. Chicago's faltering a little bit. Washington, they're struggling a little bit, and they have a 5-game West Coast trip coming up, which to me makes their schedule very difficult. All of Detroit, and Kevin's going to be the one talking about Detroit's schedule. Detroit has a really tough schedule too. If you're just going by winning percentage, we've got the toughest slate in terms of the teams we'll be facing. So let's get into that. You've got these 4 teams. Kevin, you took the Pistons and you took the Bulls. We're going to kick it to you first. I want you to tell me.
The Pistons and the Wizards.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've got the Pistons and the Wizards. So we're going to kick it to you first. I want you to give me the slate, who these teams are facing and kind of your outlook. Then I'll break down the last 2, giving you the Pacers and the Bulls.
All right, so first let's do our hometown boys, our Pistons. Well, as we all know, tonight we got Charlotte coming up. That's a really difficult game. If you remember, Charlotte's owned us the last couple times we played them. I think we just did not match up well with them. Charlotte is one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. They're playing really, really well, clicking on all cylinders. It's like injuries, just despite the injuries, they got guys just filling in, everybody stepping up. So I think tonight is a really tough game we got ahead of us. And then tomorrow is a game that's equally as tough, which is Atlanta, which is very similar as far as that's a team that's handled us the last 2 times we played them. And Atlanta is such a crisp team. I love to watch their ball movement. I like the way they play. Really like the way Budenholzer has them playing. But they're a really tough cover for us. They're a team that has quick guards that can get into the lane. Detroit struggles with that because, unfortunately, our boy Reggie Jackson is a turnstile on the perimeter. And then Andre Drummond, of course, we know he's not the greatest rim protector yet. Not sure if he'll ever be anything more than an average rim protector, but those are the type of teams that we struggle with quick guards that can get into the lane and that can spread the floor with shooters. So that's going to be a difficult one. And then, to top it off, an even more difficult one on Tuesday, we got the Thunder coming in. And that's the one that I think has a lot of blowout potential. I think that Russ Westbrook and Kevin Durant, I think they get up to play Reggie Jackson. I think, there's some bad blood there between those 3. And most importantly, it's just the fact that you got 2 of the top 5 best players in the NBA on one team on that floor with Westbrook and Kevin Durant. So I really think that one has got some serious blowout potential. But you never know. This is the NBA. That's why we play the games. And then we got, after that, coming up on April 1st, we got a game against Dallas, which, the last couple of years we've played Dallas really tough. And, we've been able to, get some wins down there. And I think them coming here, I think that's one with Dallas not playing very well. I think that's one we should win. And then we get into our slate where we can really pick up some ground because we play a lot of these teams are in the playoff hunt with us. So we got Chicago on the 2nd. I think that's going to be a very important game. That's one that right now I think we have a game. We have the tiebreaker against Chicago. I think we won 2 out of the 3.
Yep, we're up on
and this will be so this will be the one to decide. If we can win this one, that'll be huge going down the stretch because that means that if we end up tied for Chicago, we'll take the tiebreaker. So we've got that. And then we got Miami a couple days later. Another playoff team, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure we're not catching Miami. I think they're about, 12 games above 500 right now. But, that's a game we definitely need, definitely. And then we have Orlando, the lowly Orlando Magic, which we just blew them out the other night. And I see that as being another easy victory, especially if Vucevic doesn't play again. But either way it goes, I think we should just go ahead and we should take care of business there. And then probably the most important game on our slate is Washington on April the 8th. Now, last time we played Washington, and in Washington,
cool guys are going to be at that game, man. I thought I heard something about some podcast hosts and some guys that can't dunk being at that game, man. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
That April 8th one might be the one to go to, buddy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's the one, man. That's the one, and yeah, I can't wait to be in attendance at that one. And that's the one that's really, I think, going to be telling because we're going to be fighting Washington. I think Washington is a team that's going to be going down to the wire with us. But looking at this slate, look at that game, that might be the one to decide who's making the 8th seed or not. And then we got Miami again. Once again, another tough one. But Miami's a team that we've played well, that we've been able to beat this year. And then finally, our last game should be an easy win. That's going to be against Cleveland. Pretty sure they're going to rest pretty much everybody that game, getting ready for their playoff run. So that should give us a good chance. So, we got a really tough schedule coming up, but we got some winnable games in it. So now,
check this out. Check this out, though, Kev. Now, with the Cleveland one, I get what you're saying, but them and Toronto are kind of going head up. That last game of the year, it could very well be for home court throughout the playoffs. Toronto's, 2 games back?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, I don't think Cleveland really cares about that. They're not catching San Antonio, not catching the Warriors. So, they're not going to have home court, in the finals if they make it that far. And I think at this point,
you don't want Big Drake in your face Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals, man. Drake right there in LeBron's face, that could be rough.
Yeah, it could be, but I seriously doubt if Toronto could take them to 7 games.
It's Drake though, man. The magic of Drake. You can't count out the Drake Meister.
I actually think that might help Cleveland because seeing Drake's face would just make me even more angry, and that would make me play better because I wanted to just punch his face in the whole time.
A little extra fear. Hey, check this out, Kev. Now, before you get into your other team, I'm gonna hop in real quick because we broke down the Pistons. We broke down the Pistons pretty good, and I agree with you whole soul. I mean, the slate is tough. If we can go around 500, what do we have? 10 games left. If we can do 5-5, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. But I don't know for sure. Now, if you don't mind, I want to talk about Chicago just for a second because, like you said, we've got the tiebreaker against them right now because it's 2-1. Like huge game coming up with them in a couple of days now. We'll be playing them, and so I want to look at their slate real quick because at this moment they're the ninth. They're the 9th seed. Or I don't even want to call it a seed. They're in 9th place, and Washington is in 10th. We're chasing the Pacers. So I'm going to hop in real quick and break down Chicago. You gave us a good detailed description of what we got going on with the Pistons. I'll give you a brief one, just telling you what the other foes are going or what they have coming up. And so with Chicago, you got, like you said, Orlando. They're just not good, man. And they got even worse when you subtract Tobias Harris. Some of the tougher games they have, they've got Atlanta, good team. They've got Indiana on the road. Houston, now they're fighting for playoff positioning as well, and that's a road game. And like you said, they've got us. The Bucks aren't that good, but it's a road game, and they have players, Parker and Antetokounmpo, and I'm not even going to say Monroe, but they do have some decent players where every now and then they can surprise you.
Man, that's my boy.
Yeah, Chris Middleton. Memphis once again back in the fray. They started off slow and sluggish. Zach Randolph not looking like himself. All of a sudden, they're like one of the top seeds in the West. That's a road game. You've got Miami on the road. You've got Cleveland. Pelicans aren't good, but they do have the brow. You never know. And then they close the year with Philly. I think their schedule, and they're already games behind us, their schedule is probably the second toughest. You could argue whose schedule, is tougher between the two of us. Indiana definitely has the easiest route, but Chicago's route is really tough. And I think because of that, that's one team that we can X out. But I know you got some info on, what's that, the Wizards?
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
One thing I wanted to point out, too, about Chicago, you know what? I think we're lockstep with this one. That was a team I was thinking we could X out, too. I think Chicago's going to fade away. And mostly because if you look at them, they're having a lot of injury issues. Jimmy Butler may mention that his knee just have not felt right since he's come back. So I think with him, Powell set out a couple games. So I think with that, and I think, with Chicago looking at it being a team that had initially championship aspirations and looking at themselves fighting for a playoff spot, I could really see them shutting down their bigs, shutting down Gasol, shutting down Jimmy, maybe even D-Rose for the rest of the year.
They lost to the Knicks, man.
They
lost to the Knicks twice.
I know, twice in a row.
You don't want to make the playoffs. If you lose to the Knicks, I know we lost to the Knicks not that long ago. You lose to the Knicks twice, you don't deserve. I don't think that's in the rules, but they need to institute that. If you lose 2 straight games to the Knicks, you should be eliminated from playoff contention anyway. But for some reason, that isn't a rule. but it's a moral rule, in my opinion. Mentally and from a moral standpoint, I don't think they want to get in, and I don't think they deserve to get in.
Yeah, I don't either, man. I really think they're a team that we're gonna see fade away. I think it's gonna be, us. As you said, of course, Indiana, and team that I'm gonna mention now, the Washington Wizards. Now, I think they're gonna be our biggest, toughest challenge. Is gonna be the Wizards. As I said, I think the Bulls are gonna fade, but looking at the Wizards' schedule, they got about I'd say maybe 4 difficult games. Well, no, I guess 5 because they play us. So they got Golden State, which is pretty much an automatic loss. They got them coming up in 3 games. Then they got the Clippers on the road, and they're coming to the Palace. So they're coming to see us on the 8th, of course. Then they got Charlotte, and then to finish the season out, they got the Hawks. But sprinkled in there, they got some real bottom feeders, man. They got Minnesota, they got Phoenix, they got Brooklyn twice, and they got Sacramento and the Lakers.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So they got some real bottom feeders there. So, if they lose, if they lose 3 of those 5 difficult games, hopefully 4. Like if they can, Golden State, that's pretty much a loss. If say they lose to the Clippers, they lose to us, I think we're pretty good. I think we're in pretty good shape. When we go 5-5, we'll be pretty good shape because right now, they're 1 game under. We're 4 games over. So I think they're 2.5 back. If I remember correctly, I have to look at standings, but
that sounds about
I think that puts us in pretty good shape. But the dangerous thing about Washington is, of all these teams fighting for a spot right now, they have the best player,
by
and
far.
John Wall.
Yeah.
And, as much as I love Paul George, good as he is, he's not John Wall. John Wall is definitely one of the top point guards in the NBA, one of the top players in the NBA. I love John Wall. And so when you got a guy that good, that dynamic, who can put a team on his back and carry him, that's always going to bode well. That's always going to give you a great chance to fight. And then on top of that, as we saw when we walked into Washington, and they just beat the brakes off of us. And, it looked like we shouldn't even showed up. Looked like me and you and Theron and Jake went out there against them. After seeing that, it's like, man, Washington really had it clicking. They really had it rolling. So, they just had a tough loss to Atlanta last night, a nice little blowout, which was good for us. But, before then, they had been playing really, really good basketball. So I think they'll continue. They'll keep that up. So they're really going to give us a push. But they're going to be our biggest threat to losing our playoff spot, if you ask me.
I agree. And the other thing with them is we have to outright have a better record because they own the tiebreaker against us. They've got more wins in the head-to-head. So it's going to be difficult. The thing with the West Coast trip, though, is it's weird. Inferior teams beat better teams on those West Coast trips. So I'm hoping that along with Golden State, being a loss, that 5-game West Coast trip, that and the Clippers, you're saying those are definite losses. I'm hoping somehow, some way between the Lakers, Sacramento, and Phoenix, we get another loss sprinkled in there. I'm hoping they go 2-3 on that West Coast trip, like you said. Against us, hey, we beat them, we deserve it. If not, the teams are pretty close. And like I said, you got Atlanta and then Charlotte. So I'm with you on that. Now, the team I feel as though is going to have the best record out of all of us and will end up as the 7th seed is the Pacers because their schedule is really easy, man. They've got the best record right now, percentage-wise, in all of the teams, and they have the easiest road. Now, listen to this. You've got home games against Brooklyn. You've got Houston, but it's a home game. You've got a home game against Chicago, a home game against Orlando. You've got a home game. It's Cleveland, but you're at home. And then you've got, I can't read my own handwriting. You got the Knicks at home, who we just been dogging out, in Brooklyn. I mean, those are some easy games minus, Cleveland is definitely going to be tough. Houston is in there, but their home games are almost all victories. Out of all those games, man, Cleveland's going to give them a good fight. But after that, Houston, it'll be close. And then check this out. Here are their road games. They've got road games against Philadelphia, New York, Milwaukee. I mean, those are probably wins. They got a road game against Toronto. But as you can see, their schedule is very easy. Their last 11 games, they're playing 7 at home. And both road and home games are against a number of cupcakes. Okay? Brooklyn, Orlando, the Sixers, the Knicks. These are gimmies, okay?
Man,
Milwaukee, these are gimmies. So you can just pencil in Paul George, Miles Turner, and company. They're in the playoffs. If they don't make it, something went really, really bad. And so
Paul George is a broken leg again if they don't make it.
If he re-breaks his leg again, that would be the only way. And they also own the tiebreaker.
Actually, you know what? That schedule is such a cupcake. He could break his leg. They probably still go like 8-9 or 8-1 or something.
They probably still get in some type of way, Kevin. That's how easy that schedule is. And they also have the tiebreaker against us if for whatever reason we're tied. Now, far-fetched scenarios, I'm going to give them to you, is the fact that we could be as high as the 3rd seed. No, it's not going to happen. 1st and 2nd seed, we can't catch them. Nothing we can do. Not enough games. However, we are only 4 games back of Atlanta, who's the 3rd seed. So if you got Atlanta in there, Miami, you've got Boston, you got Charlotte. All those teams are ahead of us. Stranger things have happened. We've got 10 games. We could easily make up 4, but you're looking at about 5 teams you had to pass up. So I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there. It's a small possibility. We can go as high as the 3rd seed. I think the highest we realistically go, and this is, super Kool-Aid, is 6. I don't think we'll even get to 6. 7 is possible. 7's possible. 6 is Kool-Aid drinking time. 7 is going to be horrible possible. I think somehow, some way, we sneak in as the 8th seed. Now, let me ask you this, Kev, before we go to break. If we are the 8th seed, you've got 2 teams you would potentially face. On the one end, you've got Cleveland, who we've already been successful against.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you've got Toronto. I mean, call it what you want, although we've struggled against Toronto, most people would say Cleveland is the better team, especially for the playoffs. If we hit the 8th seed, who do you want to face in the first round? Do you want Cleveland, who is, by most accounts, the better team? Or do you want, although we've been successful against them, or do you want Toronto, who would probably, they're probably not as good as Cleveland?
Now, this is going to sound really weird, but I actually think we have a better shot against Cleveland. I know that's probably this is way out the box, but just hear me out.
All right.
Okay. Well, for one, there's a couple reasons we struggle with Toronto.
Have you been drinking? Have you been drinking before?
No. I haven't started drinking yet. No.
This is a sober thought from Kevin. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. It's out the box, but all right. So when we play Toronto, our biggest issues with Toronto is normally that Andre Drummond cannot check Valanciunas. He just cannot deal with bigs who have length and who can, who have really good post games. And so Valanciunas always kills us. And of course, Kyle Lowry is a handful. And as we saw last time, DeMar DeRozan, I mean, he's got so much height, so much strength on KCP. We literally have nobody who can guard him. So we always struggle we always struggle a lot with Toronto. But what I'm looking at is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They have a couple things going for them. For one, you see this every year with the top teams. They'll usually have either a bottom rung team or just a borderline, mid-level team that for whatever reason is just not a good matchup for them. They just struggle with them. And I think we are that team for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Every time we play Cleveland, everybody thinks, we're going to get blown out. But all the games, we won 2 of the 3, and I think the one we lost was pretty close. And if you look at it, it seems like the reason it seems like Cleveland struggles with us, it seems like LeBron, Dre is like LeBron kryptonite almost. Like when LeBron drives to the hole and Andre Drummond contests, it seems like LeBron misses a lot of his layups, a lot of his shots at the rim that normally he makes. And we've seen it in 3 games so far this season. And now if Kevin Love plays another disappearing act to where, because he's really the X factor. If Kevin Love is hitting his shots, he's hitting threes. If he's posting up, he's scoring. We have no chance. But I think if LeBron can have a subpar series, if Kevin Love can play another one of his disappearing acts like he's played all year, and I think we actually would have a shot to give them a run for their money, and dare I say, even actually upset them. But the only reason I would say upset, I'm not saying it'll happen, but the only chance we got is because Cleveland has so much discord in the locker room right now. Everything you're seeing, LeBron's teams are the teammates, all the players, they're biting at each other. LeBron's throwing all kinds of shots out in social media, and it's all over the news. It's everywhere. Everything you turn on, it's like, what's wrong with Cleveland? What's wrong with LeBron? LeBron is really wearing thin on all his teammates. So if that locker room implodes, and then you add that in with a team that Cleveland already struggles with, a team who's too young and too dumb to realize they have no chance, that could be that's the recipe for upset, man. We just saw Middle Tennessee State versus MSU, man. I'm telling you, but I'm not going to go out and limb and say it's going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen. I really think that Cleveland will dispatch of us in, 4 to 5 games. But I'm just saying, stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. I get your logic, man. We've played them good. If I'm picking, I still want to play Toronto. I just want to play the inferior team. And I don't know if, Toronto got embarrassed last playoffs. I don't know if that's, these guys aren't, they're not clutch, or, hey, we got it out the way. We'll be more focused this year. I'm not sure kind of which way it's going to lean for them, because they got swept last year, right, against Washington, first round. They got embarrassed. And so, I don't know if that's like good or bad. Either, these guys just aren't really that clutch. They're not, playoff type. It's not a playoff team, when playoff basketball comes around, or if they'll be super focused. Either way, if I'm picking, I'm the 8th seed. Who do I want to get that top seed? Give me Toronto. I like my chances. And, hey, it would be a great road trip. 4 hours, go down to Toronto, go down to Yonge Street. I'm sure getting a ticket would be next to impossible. But, hey, you never know. You never know. Like you said, stranger things have happened. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got to talk about Andre Drummond. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it was no question about his future with the Pistons and et cetera, et cetera. Now, you hear talks about should he be extended and different trades. So we've got a blockbuster trade that could potentially happen. We're going to discuss that. The lie detector, I'm going into the lie detector this time around. Kevin's got some questions for me. I'm not scared. I've got my water, no pressure. We're going to handle that. And yes, Theron, Jake, we'll be talking about you guys in just a moment. So stay right there on the Count That Baby and the Foul podcast. Jerry Mallory here for the Count That Baby in the File podcast. It's simple. If you want your ad to be placed on our show, send us an email, ctbpodcast@gmail. That's right, gmail.com. All right, we're back on the Count That Baby in the File podcast. Hey, we, went to break talking about Toronto and Drake, so we decided to open it up with a little bit of Drake. But Kevin, we discussed the whole playoff situation, et cetera, et cetera. It's time to talk about Andre Drummond. I thought his future with this team, it was just no question about it. And still, 95% his future is still, it's there. But it's gone from 99.99999 to 95%. People are worried, the free throws, if there's a chance to improve this team, I didn't think this would ever be a discussion. This guy would be locked up, and he still probably will be. But now that there's a little bit of questioning, some people saying, is he worth the maximum deal and this and that, we're here to talk about it. First off, Kevin, before we get into these wild trade scenarios, max contract. I get what people are saying when you say, "Oh, he's not a max contract because of the." Listen, Gordon Hayward gets max contract. Is Goran Dragic on a max contract or near max contract?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to alleviate that from your mind. Okay, I think people, when they hear max contract, they're thinking like back in the 90s when it was like Chris Webber and Kevin Garnett, and it was a very finite amount of people. And Drummond is not of that ilk. Everyone gets a max contract now, okay? This is not the 90s. This is not even the early 2000s where your max guys were Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill, Tim Duncan. Everyone's getting one now. So to say that Drummond isn't a max contract player, no, that's not the case. He's definitely a max contract player. You sign him with the free throw issues. He's an all-star center. He is a top 5 center in the league. You pay the man, and you don't think twice. However...
wait. And how old is that? What is he? 22 years old.
He's like 22 years old, man. Really? I didn't even give you a chance to answer. I'm sorry, Kevin. I know what you're going to say, so maybe I just answered for you. But, Kevin, should we sign Andre Drummond to a max contract?
No, I'm just kidding. No, you really hit the nail on the head right there. Oprah is running the NBA right now. You get a max contract. You get a max contract. Everybody get a max contract. So, that's just the way it goes. In his Enes Kanter comes off the bench in Oklahoma City. This dude is one of the worst defenders I've ever seen in my life, and he makes $70 million.
He's so bad on defense. And
I mean,
it's so
Tristan
good on
Thompson.
defense. It's so good on offense, so bad on defense. Yeah, it's bad.
You know, you look at Tristan Thompson. That's a guy who. What does Tristan Thompson do other than rebound and be irritating? And this guy makes $80 million to irritate people. I mean, he's a black 7-foot Matthew Dellavedova with rebounding skills. That's what he is. This dude makes $80 million. So of course you give Andre Drummond a max contract. I mean, there's no question about it. And if you didn't give it to him, there's like about, I don't know, maybe 29 other teams who would give it to him. So, I mean, of course, you know, there's no, you know, like, you know, we're all, even with his issues, I mean, he's so young. He's 22. And he's like just about the best rebounder in the entire NBA at 22. So, I mean, definitely you got to max him out. You got to extend him. I mean, there's no other option.
Not even a question about it. It was a radio show, and I'm not trying to dog them out too much. They started talking about some trades for Drummond. We're going to get into some realistic ones.
Oh, Lord.
They mentioned Dwayne.
They had some really bad ones.
Dwayne Wade, and they said they said they would do it, right? That they would trade Andre.
They said. Actually, the question wasn't a trade. The question was, who would you rather have?
Oh my goodness!
And they said, and yeah, one of the guys said yes to Dwayne Wade. The other two said no. And I said seek on the radio station, on the radio button. After I heard that, I said, okay, time to go to the
Gotta go.
It was like, yes, no. It was like, no, yes, seek.
Dude, Dwayne Wade's mother could be a GM, and if given the option between the two, she's picking Andre Drummond. Dwayne Wade's little kids, okay? Gabriel Union could be the GM of, I don't care, the Phoenix Suns, and they say, hey, Gabriel, you can have Drummond, and you can have Dwayne Wade, your man, your boyfriend. I don't know if they're married, whatever they are, you know. Whatever they are, he'll be right there in Phoenix. You guys, you know, you living together. And she'd say, I understand that, but responsibly, I have to pick Andre Drummond. There are those some names that we're going to get into that you start to question. So the one we wanted to talk about a little bit extensively, if you will, and the one we both discussed is DeMarcus Boogie Cousins. Now, I've got 4 names I'm going to give you after that Kevin doesn't know about. We love hitting each other with unprepared questions. It brings out the best/worst in us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the worst is actually more fun, but let's go.
Exactly. So, Boogie, now, the whole reason why you could see this trade happening for those listening is for a couple of reasons. Now, Boogie is phenomenal. He's the best center in the league. He's only about 25, I want to say, or so. Very young. Offensive game through the roof, decent on defense, rebounding. He's probably a top 5 player in the whole NBA, period, much less the best center in the league. He's definitely top 10, not a question about it. He's a malcontent. That's putting it lightly. No matter what coach he's had, it hasn't worked. There were issues about him coming out of college. He always kind of looked like he was in a bad mood. Some people think he has some emotional, mental disorders, if you will. But the dude can play. Now, he hasn't won a lot, but he can play. So if you got him on your team, he's better than Drummond, okay? He's a better player than Drummond. But you got the baggage, and you got these potential issues. And so this is a scenario where Van Gundy might say, you know what? I've got a chance to get a top 5 player. I'm in Detroit. I'm not getting, free agents aren't coming here. I'm not getting these superstars. I have a chance to take a risk on a superstar and bring him here. And so we're here to talk about it. Kev, give us your spiel. Boogie, DeMarcus Cousins from the Sacramento Kings, trade for Andre Drummond. Would you do it? Give us the ins and outs and your opinion on it.
Okay, let me first start off by saying I love Andre Drummond. I really do. That's my guy. And you can pretty much guess what I'm about to say. No question. I would do it. I would do this in a heartbeat. I mean, the thing about Andre Drummond is no matter how good he gets, he's not going to be better than DeMarcus Cousins under any way, shape, or form. He's not going to be a better player. Now, there's a couple issues with Boogie, though. For instance, like you brought the thing about the coaches. He did have one coach that he loved, one coach he got along with. That was Mike Malone, and Sacramento foolishly fired him just out of nowhere when, of course, Boogie is out for 9 games. Sacramento goes on a 9-game losing streak, I think it was, and he gets fired. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen? Your whole entire team is basically one player, and that player comes down with a case of, I don't know if he had meningitis or something, and he's not playing. And it's like a huge shock to ownership that, hey, we lost a lot of games without one of the best players in the NBA. We have nobody, to back them up.
The team sucks, so.
Yeah, So, I mean, what are they expecting to happen? Then they bring in, of all people, George Karl. George Karl is one of those guys who, he's really an old fogey of the NBA. The game has passed him by. He doesn't know how to relate to young players of this generation, and you really see it now. I mean, the first thing this fool does when he comes in is try to trade a top 10 player immediately. Doesn't even have trading powers. It's just like, okay, we're going to bring you in to be our coach. And George Karl's like, okay, well, let me get on the phone and start saying, hey, you want DeMarcus Cousins? You want DeMarcus Cousins? Like, okay, your best player locked up $80 million contract, which is about to be a bargain after this silly season that's coming this year. And then the first thing you decide to do is let's try to trade him after he's already salty with the franchise for getting rid of the only coach he's liked thus far. So, I mean, the Kings, the organization is just a complete train wreck. So, of course, I think that magnifies all the issues that he has, maybe the emotional issues, I mean, if you're in a bad work situation, that bleeds over into your personal life, too. So, I mean, I can't see how him being in a bad work situation doesn't bleed over into his play on the court. But, so, like I said, I mean, of course I do that deal in the heartbeat, but the things you have to worry about with that is Stan Van Gundy, much as I love him, he's one of those coaches that grinds on players. Every player he's played with, they all just, eventually at some point got tired of him. Got tired of just constantly grinding. And I just wonder about that fit, about Stan Van Gundy getting on, Boogie for effort. Like, how is that going to work out? This might be another Rasheed situation. But, hopefully it's something that would work out. But I think, the upside is just too huge. You just cannot ignore it. And also, too, with that trade, that is definitely not a trade that will be done, DeMarcus Cousins for Andre Drummond straight up. So that means you have to package Drummond with something, probably a pick, probably one of our young guys. And then, and in that case, I'm honest, I would still do it.
I think Sacramento would do it straight up, man. I think they do it in a heartbeat.
I don't know. I doubt if they do it straight up, man, because, as good as Andre is, I mean, I think there are teams that can offer you more than just Andre Drummond straight up. I think –
No, I mean, I think a young Drummond, I think that would be by far the best they can do with a guy that's got that many issues. I don't think anyone's going to blow them out with something better than Drummond, but that's just me.
Well, I think they will, because another thing you have to remember is Boogie is under contract for like 4 more years. He's locked up, and he's locked up at a good price. I think he's like $17 million a year, $17 million a year.
Something like that, right?
For a superstar caliber player. He's locked up. So he's not going to be in this silly season. Andre is about to get the silly season max contract. So this max contract is going to be in excess of $20 million. So that's, so if you look at that, Andre Drummond plus, 20 million-ish, maybe closer, I think, his max, I have to look at it. He might be closer to like 22, 23, depending on where the cap falls at this year. And you got DeMarcus Cousins for, like, say, 16, 17, So teams will give up a ransom for that. But even still, with one of our young guys package, I still do the deal. I just tell them to throw in, somebody like, I don't know, maybe Ben McLemore, maybe some other cat fodder they don't want to get rid of. But, that's the other thing, too, that I think if you make that trade for DeMarcus Cousins, it's not only costing you Andre Drummond, it's probably going to cost you a first-round pick, and it's probably going to cost you either KCP or Stanley Johnson. But even with that, two things I know for sure. Andre Drummond is not going to ever be as good as Boogie. Stanley Johnson is not going to be as good as Boogie. KCP is not going to be as good as Boogie. And there's about a 99.9% chance that whatever first-round pick you trade, which will be like mid to late first round, is not going to be as good as Boogie. So if that's the choice I have, I'm doing that trade all day still.
Good points. I'm going to have to go the other way on this, and here's my deal. It's like remember that game, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? So you're sitting there and you got $250,000. You're at a question and you don't know if you know this question or not. You got you called a friend, you did the 50-50. You're still not sure. If I'm at $250,000, I'm taking my money. I'm not going for that $500,000 that I may or may not get. And that's how I look at it with Cousins. Yes, Cousins is better than Drummond. However, I do not think it will work. He is a malcontent. He's grumpy. He's grouchy. You've got to look at who is your president, Stan Van Gundy. So essentially you're saying Gundy and Drummond or Boogie Cousins, who hasn't won yet, and as good as he is, I know he's not the reason they've lost, but he hasn't been the reason they won either.
That's true.
I wouldn't risk it. I would not risk it. I would love to get him in any other scenario, but I'm not giving up my all-star guy who is, he's young, but by all accounts, he's willing to work, he gets along, and he gets along with his teammates, and he's really good. I just rather take that $250,000 that I have because I don't know if I'll get that next question right. I mean, you're talking about if you bring in Boogie, you've given up Drummond. If this thing goes bad, it goes sour, I just worry about Boogie. And all that being said, like a phenomenal player, but with Van Gundy as my coach and giving up a guy like Drummond, I just would not risk it. But I certainly get your sentiment on it. Now, I've got some names, Kev. Quick reaction. Oh, yeah. Quick reaction, just a yay or a nay if you would trade Andre Drummond for the following guys, all right? And all these guys, I did big men because, it gets kind of weird. You start talking about guards for big and how you construct your team. So one guy from the LA Clippers, there's been some rumors that he's going to be on the move this offseason, Blake Griffin. Would you trade Blake Griffin for Drummond straight up?
All right. Now, one caveat I had to know, is this going to be, are you saying what I do is straight up, or are you saying I'm doing a more realistic trade that's going to involve draft picks and other players? Straight up. And this one is funky because you got DeAndre Jordan already, but straight up Griffin for Drummond. Ooh, that's a toughie, but I think I'd have to go with no. Just because I think we've seen what Blake is. I think Blake is a player who's got a loser's mentality. As good as he is, one of the top power forwards in the league, probably top 3 power forwards in the league, I still think he's got that mentality where if he's your number one guy, you're not going to win. You just see too many times in big moments he fades. And in big moments, he makes a costly turnover, a bad shot, or just some idiotic play, offensive foul, something. So I would have to say no there. I would have to take my chance on Andre Drummond's upside over what I know Blake Griffin is.
All right.
Good as he is.
The next one I got for you, big man, all the hype. He's been living up to it. From Minnesota, would you trade Andre Drummond straight up Karl Anthony Towns?
Another toughie, but
this should be this should be easy, man. Come on now.
It's still tough, but yeah, I think you have to.
You have to. In my opinion, he is currently, and I talk about this. I think me and Jake have had this conversation. Drummond's a better rebounder, and that's about it. Karl Anthony Towns is literally better than Drummond at everything already at 19 years old as a rookie. He's better offensively. He's better defensively. He can shoot. He can block shots. He can pass. The only thing Drummond has on him is rebounds. And I'm not trying to dog Drummond. I love the guy, but you guys know my affection for Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. I think he's currently better. Now, he doesn't have the experience, so that plays a part. Like if we're going to a playoff run, Drummond has faced all of these teams several times. So, yeah, Drummond's got experience over him, but as far as skill, Towns is already better than him, and at 19 years old.
You make a great point, and you actually make it a lot easier for me to say, yeah, I do it.
Yeah, because what does Drummond do better already? And Drummond's been in the league 4 or 5 years. Other than rebounding, Towns does everything better. Now, this next one is funky. It's ugly. It's a bad one. I'm just throwing this out here because I don't know. I want to. It depends on how you feel about this one player. I'm sure this is a bad one. Okay, New York calls you, and they want Drummond. All right, and then so they're saying. I'm laughing just saying this one. We'll give you Porzingis, we'll give you Carmelo, and we'll give you a first-round pick. We want Drummond. We want to rebuild our whole team. We want Big Andre to be our centerpiece. We'll go and try to find a point guard, maybe Jeff Teague or somebody, and that's how we're going. We're giving you Porzingis, one of the best young guys in the league. He will probably fit perfectly in a Stan Van Gundy system. Hey, if you like Melo, you can kind of work that out, and then we'll give you our first-round pick, which will probably be a top 7-ish pick for Andre Drummond. Would you do it?
Well, when you say that trade to me, basically what that trade says to me is, hey, look, we've tried to build our team around Carmelo Anthony, Porzingis, and first-round picks, and it hasn't worked. So you want to try that instead? So That's one of those ones where I hang up with lightning quick speed, and I try my best not to just laugh in their face. So of course not, man. That's a horrible deal. It's a horrible trade. I'm glad you gave the caveat on it first.
Oh, I had to. Otherwise, you kill me on it. I'm like, this one would be good for conversation. This one would be good for the show. But let me let you know, I'm not just like totally disconnected with the NBA. Now, here's the last one. This guy's better, and it isn't character issues. He's a China cabinet. Okay, he can't stay healthy to save his life. Yeah. We had a close look. He put 60 on us or 59, whatever it was.
Oh Jesus, yeah. 59.
The Pelicans call you. Joe Dumars is the new GM of the Pelicans. I think he's in New Orleans, isn't he? Isn't he like?
Yeah,
I
think he's somewhere, man. Well, I think they're trying to get him. He's a Louisiana native, so
yeah, I think he's in New Orleans like as an advisor. He gets the actual gig, and he's like, hey, I drafted Drummond. This is my guy. I really like him. Clearly, if Davis was healthy, you wouldn't do this trade. But that's the reason why we're trying to ship him. Do you want to take that risk? Do you do it, Kevin? Anthony Davis, clearly better, always hurt for Andre Drummond.
Well, if I'm Stan Van Gundy, the first thing I would do when you call me is I'll tell you, hold on for a second, and I'd probably fly down south or somewhere. I find the strongest, biggest bottle of Everclear that you could possibly think of, like 180 proof.
The good stuff.
I mean, straight, no ice, no chaser, nothing. Then I come back to Detroit, get back on the phone, I say, yes. And then I proceed to drink that entire bottle in one sitting.
You know where you better go right after that?
Where would you go after that?
You better go to Minnesota, and you better get on your knees, and you better say, Arnie Kander, whatever reason I fired you, whatever disagreement I had with you, whatever the issue it was some type of beef between Arnie and Stan Van Gundy that people aren't talking about. Whatever that beef was, I'm on my knees. I'm telling you, we just got the best player, yet the most China doll, most injury-prone guy ever. We need you back. And you call Arnie Kander, and you say, we need you, we'll make you whatever you want, we'll pay you whatever you want, because we got to keep this guy healthy.
Today, you just take the kids hostage, and you just say, bro, the kids in Detroit, you better come get them.
That's it. I'm with you on that one, though. I do the trade just because of talent. Oh, my goodness, man. And you would just hope that some type of way you can keep this guy healthy. So this was a fun exercise. The chances of any of these happening are very, very slim. Next year and the years beyond, Andre Drummond will be right here with the Pistons. That's our full belief. But a little bit of the luster has started to fall off, where you hear people giving conversations of who would you rather have and should you extend them. So we had to bring that up.
To that point now with Andre Drummond where it's going beyond, he's just a young, raw talent. So now you're actually seeing that talent start to kind of coalesce and gel, and you're starting to see exactly what kind of player he's going to be. Mm-hmm. And with that, that also allows you to see what his flaws are going to be. Yeah, so that's why we're starting knocking that luster off. It's not now where it's just like, well, we don't really know exactly what he'll be. We just know he's got a lot of talent. Now it's kind of like, okay, we can see his post game developing. Okay, we can see his free throw shooting. We can see his rim protection, the rebound. We can see what you'll excel at
or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. So that's more so now that you're not only seeing what he's gonna, you're just really getting to see what he's probably gonna be.
That's a really good point. Now, before we get out of here, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We got about 5-10 minutes left. The lie detector is what we'll close the show out with. We got to talk about our weekend. A weekend with our buddies. As you know, me and Kevin, we're part of this fantasy basketball league, and it's a lot of fun. We've mentioned some of the guys before, Theron and Jake. Theron was the star of our last podcast because it was this whole thing on whether Theron could dunk. Has he ever dunked? Well, the thing about this fantasy basketball league, I think the highlight for me, more than the actual fantasy thing, is this group chat thing that we have called Group Me. Now, there are secondary members in it that kind of chime in here or there, but there are 4 heavies, okay? And those 4 heavies are Kevin. They're Kevin, there's Jerry, it's Theron, and it's Jake. You got to get to know these guys. We talked about Theron last time, the guy who we don't know if he's dunked or not, and that's still under suspicion. Jake?
We actually do know. He admitted it.
Well, he admitted to not dunking?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear this. What do you mean he admitted to not dunk? Where was I at?
He never dunked before, man. Last time we were hanging.
Oh, he said it. He probably waited till I went upstairs. He probably waited for me to be somewhere else because he knows.
Yeah, he whispered in my ear. He's like, "Cam, come here." I never dunked.
He had Jake whisper it for you. Jake is the young guy of the crew. We're all like in our early 30s. Jake is 12, 13.
Yeah, I think he just started chewing solid food.
I think no, seriously, Jake is like 19 years old. I call him the prodigy. This guy knows his basketball and different things like that.
Huh?
He knows his basketball reference. But our whole little dichotomy is we all turn into kids, like 10-year-olds. We pretty much on a daily basis have messages and messages and messages that constitute of a pissing match, okay? We all want to one-up each other. It started with like, okay, we're going to give our opinions on sports. And we go back and forth. Hey, who knows the most about sports? Essentially, we never would say that, but, oh, well, I can top, this would be a good trade or that would. And so now it's just gone right out into, hey, I'm better than you at this. I'm better than you at that. Let's compete. And so some of our competitions include NBA 2K. And this is where Jake excels, okay? He's the GOAT of NBA 2K, according to him. Now, bowling was another one that came up, and I said I knew how to bowl. Didn't really show that, which we'll talk about in just a second. Regular basketball has come up. It's gotten so bad we're going to have bench pressing competitions, literal pissing match. Who could pee the furthest? It's getting bad.
Yeah, I think that's the next thing is we're literally going to have a peeing match in a minute.
Yep, I think who can pee the longest, whose string can go the furthest. That's pretty much
who can write their name in the snow, who can write their name on the side of a building, and you name it.
That's what we've reduced ourselves to, but hey, we love it. So just to give you a recap, we played a little NBA 2K, and Jake did his thing, okay? Jake, he was undefeated. He said he was the best. See, my thing is he's the best in our group. I don't think he is as good as he says he is. Now, but amongst us, he's the best. There's no denying it. There was a cardinal sin that was committed though during our escapades. Now, I'll have to say, now listen, I lost to Theron, so I got to throw that out there. I had a horrible day that day. I enjoyed hanging with you guys. I sucked at bowling, and I did pretty bad at 2K. Theron committed the ultimate no-no. I didn't know if this was just like a rule in the hood where I grew up or in general. When I had people come over.
I think it's in general.
When I had people come over, we played games a lot. I mean, so much. We play Madden and 2K. We play so much Madden. I had something called a book of Madden. It was a binder. When you came over, it had a date next to it with your win-loss record and your name. That's how much we played video games every weekend. We loved it. Cardinal sin, I don't care what the scenario is. I don't care how much you're down by. I don't care what. You don't quit. Theron committed the cardinal sin, and he quit in the middle of a video game. And here's the bad part. Playing with these teams, his opponent, Jake, had the Minnesota Timberwolves. Current Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
And Theron had the 1996 Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, I'm pausing for emphasis, Scottie Pippen Chicago Bulls.
Ron Harper.
Not only did he have the best, most cheaterific, the best team that you can create on a video game. Not only did he have that team, he went up against one of the worst teams on the game, and he was losing so bad in the third quarter, he literally hit pause, went to quit, and quit the game. Kevin, just give me your thoughts, man. That's a cardinal sin.
Ooh, man. And I love that. That's my dude, man. But wow, that's the ultimate cardinal sin, man. You never quit. You sit there, you take your butt whooping like a man. But honestly, I think of us all, I think Theron is probably the most competitive, and I think that's why he couldn't stomach it. Like, he gets
you're the most competitive. You never quit, man. You never quit if you're the most competitive.
I think, yeah. I mean,
that might make him the biggest. That might make him the biggest sore loser.
Okay, maybe that's a better way to put it.
With all due respect. Now, we're talking about horrible things and cardinal sins. I committed one just a couple hours after that. Now, we started talking about bowling, and Kevin knows we used to bowl every single Monday. It would be 50 of us. It was a great time. And Kevin always say, I just come for fun. I'm not that good. At one point,
No. Say right. I suck horribly.
He sucks horribly. And Kevin does. He throws the ball kind of like my wife does, and that's not a good thing. And so I'm like,
I'm pretty bad. I'm pretty bad.
I'm like, I used to be pretty good. I'm still decent now. I could probably get about 150 now. And, I could average 170 in my heyday. My high is 243. Nothing crazy, but I'm good, okay? I own a bowling ball, albeit used, okay? And so we get to this bowling alley, and my first game wasn't that great. I bowled a 140. Then it happened. I bowled the equivalent of Theron quitting mid-game with the Chicago Bulls. It's hard for me to mention what I bowled. I assure you, let me just say this first, Kev. I assure you I've never bowled this low before. Not when I was 6 or 7, not with the bumpers up. I don't know what happened. I bowled a 74. 7-4. I didn't make one frame, or I left every single frame open, and this guy to my left, Kevin, actually bowled better than me. I don't know what's worse, Kevin bowling better than me or me bowling a 74. It was bad. That was literally
I think they're two sides of the same coin, because the thing is that people need to know is that I'm so bad at bowling, I think I've cracked 100 one time in my entire life. I usually average about 50 to 60 when I bowl. So for me to actually bowl more than you and you bowl regularly, that's really bad.
Hey, I used to bowl regularly. Don't pin me down too bad, man. I'm taking this beating like a man.
Okay, you're rusty.
Okay, listeners, I used to bowl regularly. I can barely live with this on my resume as it is. I didn't do much better after that. I bowled like a 110. It was a bad night, man. I had fun. Hey, I wouldn't take it back. But yeah, seriously, we had fun. Our pissing match is going to continue this upcoming weekend. Me and Theron, Theron, rightfully so, talking trash about how bad I did in bowling. Well, I'm a type of person of, hey, you talk stuff to me, let's back it up. I'll talk for a certain point, and so I've put out a gauntlet against him. We're having a 3-game matchup, and the winner picked the odds, and so whoever wins this 3-game bowling matchup will own the naming rights of the other person's NBA team this upcoming year. I've got some very offensive and pathetic names for Theron when he loses. The second thing is the losing person has to wear whatever attire the winner deems them to wear at our draft. Now, for me, mine's a little offensive, so I'm not going to name what Theron's going to have me doing. I don't want to rub people the wrong way. It's like a little inside thing between us, so we'll leave it at that. It's quite offensive if I lose, but I'm not worried about it because I'm not going to lose. If he loses, as anyone who knows me, I'm the biggest Lions fan ever, but Theron is a huge Lions fan, as is Kevin. Well, Mr. Theron will be dressed in all Green Bay Packers gear. It's going to be an old, crusty-looking Green Bay Packers jersey. It's going to be a cheese head. We're going to put a porn stash on him like Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to have to, whoever loses has to make a beer run in their attire as well. I can't wait. Kev, it should be a very fun weekend.
It's going to be so much fun. The only thing that I wish, I'm kind of sad that you acquiesced and you said he could just buy the stash and wear. I really wanted to make him grow the stash.
Yeah.
Like actually do.
That would have been even better.
If he had blonde hair too, he would have had a blonde stash, man. That would have been so hilarious.
Oh, it would.
And then in the in-between stage, oh my goodness, that would have been too funny.
It would have been the best. Hey, Kev, let's close this thing out with the lie detector. This week, it is yours truly. I'm getting put in the lie detector test. For those of you that don't know how this goes, it's 3 questions Kevin has prepared for me. I don't know what they are. I'm going to give you an answer, a true or false, a short explanation afterwards. Kevin is going to go ahead and look at the results of the lie detector, seeing if what I said was true or false. The first 2 typically are basketball, Pistons related. The third one is the wild card. It could be about anything. So now that I'm strapped in, we're ready to get this thing going. Kevin, hit me, man. What do you got for the lie detector segment this show?
All right. So I have a couple really good questions. Here's the first one. Okay, so if our Detroit Pistons do not make the playoffs, if they just miss, they should trade one or more of our core pieces. True or false?
Is Casey
core pieces being KCP?
Yes, then yes.
Let me finish. I knew you would say that. But no, the core pieces being KCP, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris, and Stanley Johnson.
Yes.
So those 5 guys, they should trade one or more. And don't just say well, let me put it this way. They should trade more than one piece. I know you would just automatically say KCP.
Well, now you're making it difficult because KCP, whether we make it or not, I think he should be traded for various reasons, not to mention he's due to make a nice chunk of money after the next year. But aside from that, I'll still say a trade should happen because you added in Mook Morris. Stanley, no. Whether we make it or not, I wouldn't trade Stanley. Tobias on that contract, no. Dre, no. Reggie, no. But KCP and Mook, I think those are like the lower two in terms of our core. Yeah, I would definitely deal one of those two guys. Either way, actually, whether we make it or not.
And the lie detector test, what are we doing? Maury now? Lie detector test, prove your father? No. This is actually true. This is actually true. You're absolutely right. No matter what happens, at least Marcus Morris or KCP, one of those two need to go. I think that you can get upgrades. You could probably get a significant amount for one or both of those guys that will really help us in our, help our team going forward. So yes, that is true.
All right, I passed the first one with flying colors. Woo.
Yeah. So okay, number 2, the Pistons, if they make the playoffs, can win a playoff game against Cleveland.
Yeah, they definitely can. And we've talked about how they match up against Cleveland. It seems as though LeBron James struggles for whatever reason. Drummond becomes that interior defender that we want so much. He becomes that rim protector when he sees LBJ and company. So if we play Cleveland, I think we could actually even sneak and win too. But to answer your question, yes, we can win a game against Cleveland. I'll say game 3. If we play them in a series, they win the first 2 at home. Game 3, it's the first playoff game that the Pistons have had at the Palace in years. It's going to be sold out. The energy is going to be crazy. We'll win that game 3, no matter who we play if we make the playoffs, including the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And the lie detector test shows that you are telling the truth. Or what is it? Is it a true or false machine, or the lie detector? I don't know. It's that special machine.
It's a combination, man. Whatever it's like a combo. It does true or false. It does lies. It does paternity tests. It does trade.
Yeah,
it's a trade machine. We put two teams
it's a
in the
draft simulator. Everything you want, all inside this machine. It's a special machine.
All in one.
They made it at MIT.
Very special.
You know what? Yeah, my cousin, he's an Ivy Leaguer, so we got it out of MIT. So, yeah, that's how we got this machine.
That's how we do it.
So, all right. So, yeah, definitely. You passed that one with flying colors as well. That is true, as we talked about before. The Pistons just a team that the Cavaliers just don't match up well with. And I really think that if the Pistons play the Cavaliers, especially if there's discord, we're going to win at least one game, probably a couple, before Cleveland moves on ultimately. And now, the final question has absolutely nothing to do with basketball. But Batman is the best superhero, true or false?
That's resounding true. No spoilers.
Oh, resounding.
This movie was good. This newest one, Superman, Batman. That's all I'll say is that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the themes. Ben Affleck did a good job. There were questions about how he would do. It's hard to replace Christian Bale, but this is a new vision. This is it's still DC, but it's always a new look. It's a new take. It's not the same exact director. So, you move on, and just in terms of Batman in general, yeah, he's the Caped Crusader. He's the one superhero that it would still be very unlikely to be him, but he doesn't have any superpowers, okay? Like a Superman.
Yeah.
Like a Superman, you can't, it's super, you can't do anything. He's all powerful. Batman, in theory, you could have an extremely poor man's Batman actually exist. A vigilante with lots of money, lots of technology, that's smart, that knows karate, and is detective. Kind of sounds like Dwight Schrute from The Office if you think about it. But technically, you could have a very poor man's Batman exist. And I think because of that reason, I got to go with him. Donned in all black. He's from the hood, man. Gotham is the hood. We all know that, all right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
He's from the hood. The whole story, losing his parents, his villains, you love Catwoman whether she's a villain or on his side.
He's about both. He's like both.
Yeah, the Joker is awesome. If you're talking about movies, The Dark Knight, probably one of the best movies of all time. Definitely in my top 5. So, yeah, man, Batman, by far. Go see the movie, this one, if you haven't. It was awesome. You see the only thing I will say is, as you know, it was shot in Detroit. It's cool seeing some Detroit streets, during some of the action scenes, some buildings that we're used to. But yes, I went on about this one because I definitely have an affinity and appreciation and respect for the Caped Crusader, Mr. Bruce Wayne. Yes, Batman is by far, in my opinion, the best superhero of them all.
So the true or false lie detector / draft simulator / trade machine says you have passed with flying colors once again.
All right.
Batman is the best superhero, and you brought up some good points, but one good point I always liked about Batman is that he beats enemies because he's so much smarter than them, not because he's more powerful, not because he can punch harder and he's stronger, but because he outshoots everybody. And so definitely that puts him, like you said, we could have a poor man's version of him in real life at some point, at some case in point, and we just may, we got a lot of crazy people out here who would be crazy enough to try that. But yeah, definitely Batman is the best superhero. So you have once again successfully passed the lie detector / true and false / NBA draft simulator / trade machine test.
Built by MIT. Hey, Kev.
Yeah.
This was fun, man. I think we're going to come back. We're going to let this season ride out. We're either going to come back right before, like, the final game, or maybe right after the season if there's the playoffs. This has been fun. This was the playoff edition. They got a big game tonight against Charlotte. If they can win this one against a team that's been hot, it shows me that they want to get in the postseason. They lay an egg.
Oh, yeah.
They lay an egg. It's like, I got to take that wait and see approach. I'm looking forward to it, guys. As always, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Not just us two. You've got another cousin duo with Doc and Jock. They do their thing. You've got Tigers Talk. The whole gamut is there. Subscribe on iTunes, or if you have Android, subscribe on Podbay. I can be found at Jerry Mallory NFL. Kevin Evans can be found wherever. You can look for him on the internet. In fact, if you type on YouTube, you put his name in, this guy's got a little bit of musical talent. So you can find him out there in the music world. You can find me out in the sports world, and we always link back together and talk about our Pistons. This was a good show. You think we should come back next month, Kev?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it next month.
We'll be back next month with another Pistons show for Jerry Mallory and
Kevin Evans.
We're out of here, guys. Peace.
See ya.